Oh, hey guys, what's up? Just having a lazy day at home. Still in my pajamas, but we're going to jet over to the desk and we're going to talk to Ghost about Dogmatika. Yes, Dogmatika. One of the strongest splashable engines in the meta right now. I think it's most notorious for its price. It's pretty pricey, but it's so strong. And with everything being online right now anyways, you guys need to check it out. You guys need to know how to play it, how to beat it, and what some of the best parts of it are and what some of the best builds are. And Ghost is a Dogmatika lover, Dogmatika player at heart. So we're going to shoot on over to the desk, talk to Ghost, hopefully a reoccurring guest on the show. He knows a lot about the game, a lot about the current meta, so he'll have a lot of information for you. But before we go over to the desk, smash that like button and subscribe to the page. Yes, that shows me that we're doing this right, so that way we can keep providing the content you want on the page. Plus, if you want to check out more, if you want deck lists and things like that, check out the links in the description below. I'll include my Instagram, Ghost's Instagram, including merch stuff, TCG and Ink Gaming affiliate links, and I'll include a link to the actual deck file for at YGO Pro, the .ydk file. So if you want that, go ahead and check that link out down below also. But now we'll swing over to the desk and get started. Hey guys, thanks for joining us at the desk. We're here today to talk about Dogmatika with my friend Ghost, who I've been interacting with on the Instagram page. He's a great player, has a lot of good insight, and he really likes Dogmatika. So welcome to the podcast there, Ghost, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. So as has been said, I like Dogma. I like the art. I think they're a really cool engine that's definitely brought something new to the game. It's helped a lot of decks out. And as expected, when you give such a high impact generic engine, it's seen a lot of play and has a pretty big fan base already, considering it was only released in September. So So on screen, that's my Invoke Dogma list. That's the one I've been playing on Dueling Book, mainly because unfortunately in the UK we have no events. Where do you want me to start?
I think the ratios and stuff of the deck are pretty standard. But for those of you, I've never actually played Dogmatika at all. So played the deck myself, I've played against it. I just haven't played it myself. But so for people who are joining who don't know anything about it, do you want to kind of just go through, this is one of the most popular Dogmatika builds is the Invoke Dogmatika. So
yeah.
I think if you just go through real quick, just give us a rundown of the basic, how it plays and stuff, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So the Dogmatika ratio is pretty standard. You play 3 Ecclesia, that's your Searcher, 3 Knight, that's it's non-targeting negate, face-up monsters, really strong. Maximus sends 2 from your extra deck and your opponent's extra deck. He's your way of getting access to Winder. Also can send just generic toolbox stuff like Entis, Wind Pegasus, Omega to recycle resource, Clad to get your engine going if you haven't got other dogmas. Servant is your search spell, really, really strong because it sends 1 from extra deck, which is just even more resource in this deck. Can also add cards from grave, so in the late game, it can come up sometimes if you want to recycle Fleur, most of all because Fleur is just a really good card. And then you play 2 Punishment, the Trap. I think 2 is fine. Punishment's really strong. Most of the time this can pop 2 if you send Entis. And if it doesn't pop 2, you can just send more resource. Stuff like Apcolone to get the aerial play, which as you see is something I opted to play. You can also send Omega or Wind Pegasus. Again, just a load of toolboxy stuff, which is really good. So that's it for the dogmas. And then the Alistair or Invoke part of the deck, again, pretty standard. It's been doing the same thing for the last 2 years. Just normal summon Alistair, search invocation, make Makaba pass. It's pretty standard.
Yep.
You can play 3 invocation if you want. I don't really like playing Invo just because invocation in this deck without Alistair is just completely dead. In decks like Shadol or decks that actually make fusion plays, outside of the invoke line. 3 invocation I think is more justifiable, but like in this deck, you don't want to see invocation at all if it isn't with Alistair. Sure, yeah, I have the second one, so when they ash, it feels good, but I think 2 is fine. Desires.
Yeah. Isn't that pretty well established that if you ash somebody's Alistair, that they're bound to have invocation?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's gotten to that point on ranked and stuff where it's nearly like ashing OV search. They always have misc. You ash. Yeah, it feels good when you have it. Rest of the deck is kind of just fit to the meta, I guess. Desires is just because this deck can have some like bricking problems, I guess. If you don't see either engine, that's just bad, really bad. You do have a lot of high impact hand traps. You can kind of, I guess, just hand trap deck for a few turns, which can work, but you really do want to see your engine pieces because you can't do much without them. It's not like a combo deck where you can somehow search everything out like Drytron, so you really do want to see your cards. I play the one chord buy because everybody hand traps everything you do. Like, everyone knows what all of these cards do. There's very little ambiguity for the lines of play you're going for. Like, when you normal summon Alistair turn 1, everyone knows where you're going, so they're going to ash that if they have it. When you special Ecclesia, everyone knows you're going for a search play, so they're going to ash. So I think chord buy is good. And then the hand traps I play, these are kind of just suited for the meta. I mean, Gamma's just good. Removes the body, it's really strong. Ash is also really good. Droll, I guess, is like the hand trap choice format. Drytron is just insane. I mean, not much else to say. And draw is actually pretty good in the mirror because you can draw after they search for invocation. And if they have, like, I don't know, Ecclesia and whatever else in hand, their Dogmatika engine is just dead, which is really good. Meister is for, I guess, a lot of the meta as well. I mean, Virtual World, Drytron just stops a lot of stuff and it's not one's turn. And then Judgment is just because with so much back row in the meta, I mean, Eldritch, even Geist has seen some play, people playing Shadows, people playing Dogma variants. Like, everyone is on Duster in the side, Duster, Evenly, Storm, Cyclone, Twister. Like, there's just so much. And you're only ever setting like 1 or 2 back row, you're setting like Punishment and Schism. And to lose both of those to a Twister feels really bad, so I think Judgment's good. And then I think I guess the spice I play is 1 Aerial. So I guess this has seen some more play in Eldritch now. People just playing a small Shadow package because a lot of people are on the Apollon in the extra deck because you can send it with Punishment. But with so many decks being graveyard reliant, like Drytron is, I mean, I guess even Eldritch is, it really helps in the mirror. Virtual World definitely is, like, half their effects rely on graveyard access in some way. Being able to send Apcolone with Punishment to pop a card, and then Apcolone search Aerial, pitch Aerial, and then Aerial to banish 3, like the DD code for 3 in a graveyard format is insane. And having that just as a generic toolbox thing is really good. Also, another thing to note, people say, okay, but if you hard draw it, it's just bad. That's kind of not true because you can send it with Macabre, and because Macabre doesn't send to graveyard for cost, the effect will still activate, which is really good as well. And it's a monster, so again, that's generally the scenario in which you use Macabre. And if you hard draw it, you can just send Apka to add back like something else, I don't know, add Schism, and then pitch it anyway. It's just such a high impact play when you can get it to happen that it just wins games.
And Schism, but you know, before Schism came out, you wouldn't see this. You wouldn't add this without Schism.
No.
So
but, I mean, Schism came out
releasing Schism
in Rise, so
so Schism coming out like really made Shadal a little bit more versatile, made it worth splashing in a package like this.
Oh, definitely.
Because you can get that window. I think, you know, Schism's a hell of a card, and you know,
Schism's
people
crazy.
say that about Winda, but Winda's useless if you can't get it out. So having the Schism play in there is amazing.
Yeah, and Schism's also an out for so many things. Like, people forget, but Schism outs Dragoon. Like, if they just, I don't know, get greedy and they just want to negate stuff early, which you shouldn't do. If you're playing anything with Dragoon and you're playing against Dogma, you absolutely hold your Dragoon negate for Schism. You do not want to get window locked and lose your Dragoon after you special summoned it. So you definitely don't want to just blind waste your negate. Because Schism gives you so much power. Like, you can summon a window, which by itself is just good because this deck doesn't special summon that much at all. So you can kind of just sleep under window and you can get rid of stuff, which is strong.
Yeah, it is strong. And that's something I like. I like that, Dogmatika itself is really strong and as its, little package that it is, and it's very splashable in other decks. But I really like that, packages like this kind of revitalize control strategies with slightly older packages like Shadal's. And I think that I actually just did a video with Yu-Gi-Oh! JPEG about Shadal's because they have a little bit of a cult following too. So
yeah.
I think that making a deck and an archetype that has a little bit of a cult following, competitive, helps people become interested in the new package as well.
Sure.
I
think
so.
Yeah, Shadal's are really worth splashing in decks which can. Just people forget how good the Shadal effects are. Like, I don't think there's I guess you could say some of them are bad. Like Kaios is terrible, but like Aerial is a DD Pro for 3. Beast is a draw 1, or if you can get it on field, it's a draw 2 discard 1, which in Shadal decks is like a +3 sometimes. Dragon gets rid of back. Like, the Shadals are just such useful toolboxy things. Like, there's another build that we'll go through later, which makes use of the Shadal engine even more. It's just this splashable thing that gives you access to just plays and advantage. I think it's really cool.
Yep. So, and I guess at this point in this discussion, this is where we're going to get a little bit more generic as far as meta discussion, because if you look at your build, it's almost half the deck that's not really engine related.
Yeah.
Hand trap lineups, Solemn Judgment. So let's just discuss that real quick as far as, your hand trap selection. I discussed this with Teramic when we discussed Drytrons, and I think that it's important. It's an important discussion to see what people think is good against the meta, because everybody has their own opinion, as well as to see what people synergize with their own deck well, because you obviously don't want to play hand traps that screw up your own strategy.
So basically for the hand traps, the reason why I play 11. 11 is like, don't quote me on this, but it should be around 80% chance of opening at least one. The reason why you play so many is because you're not a combo deck. So yeah, sure, you can open the nuts, like you can open, I don't know, Meltdown, Alistair, Servant, Hand Trap, and Cold Bite. Like, that's crazy. But you're not a combo deck, so if you're playing into, I don't know, VFD end board, or Herald and 5 negate end board, it's going to be a lot harder. Like, combo decks can generate resource off one card very easily. Like, one Virtual World can get you access to 3 cards, right? You can get the Qinglong Engrave, the Virtual World in hand, and the Virtual World in field. You're not that deck, so a lot of your cards just go 1 for 1 for resource. Like Servant, I guess Servant's pretty powerful, but Alistair does that. So you're going to have a pretty tough time breaking the end boards of this meta, especially against VFD, especially against Herald. So you do, I mean, you absolutely have to have a hand trap going second into other decks. And all of them except Gamma are also live in your opponent's turn, just as disruptions. And drawing them in the late game doesn't even feel that bad, especially with like Ash, Gamma, and Meister, because they are just like negates, I guess. Judgment, I don't know if I've said this, but that's just because people made back row outs because there's so much in the meta.
Yeah. Yep. No, I think that these are definitely, especially for this meta, some of the strongest hand traps and counter trap that you can play. One question I have, and I had this little discussion with Teramic, is Skullmeister versus Cyclereader. obviously Cyclereader is only good against light cards. I can pull that up just as a reference here for the video. But did you use Skullmeister because it's so much more generic?
I think Cyclereader is insane.
But I don't.
Like, Cyclereader against Drytron
Yeah.
is like an FTK sometimes. Like, if you're playing Drytron and you open more than 2 names, to be honest, that's not like a crazy good hand. You'd rather open like 2 names and like Ben 10 and stuff. I mean, you can have hands with like 3 names, Ben 10, and like orange, and that's like just god tier. But most of the time, you're going to be seeing like, I don't know, Alpha, Zeta, or just 2 names. And at some point in the combo, those names or one of them in a Ben 10 are going to be engraved. And you banish both. Like, that's just game. It's so hard to get back from that, especially if you. It's so strong. So I honestly might have put Cyclereader in this deck since I sent you the list because it's so high impact.
Oh, all right.
But
or at least side, like it's a decent. If you want to play Skullmeister, because Skullmeister works on any attribute, and Cyclereader only works on lights.
But I think the important thing with Cyclereader is that it banishes them. Like, it just gets rid of them.
Yes.
I think one of the best things about Drytron is it's a combo deck that can grind you, which is just something that I guess we haven't really seen. If you go back to Dragon Link didn't really have the best grind game. Like, their turn 1 combo used 13 cards in the extra deck, and they would have milled like 20 from their main deck. So once half your engine is in the grave, if you don't have like crazy recursion, you're not going to grind that well. I guess similar to Adamantipator, like Adamantipator milled so much from their deck and extra deck. So even if you're like crazy unbreakable 9 negate board was broken, you really didn't have that much going for you. But Drytron, like, their entire grave is just live resource that resets every turn, which is crazy. And if you just point blank get rid of the resource before it can be used, and you get rid of it permanently for the rest of the game, it's just GG.
Yep. So would you suggest main decking Cyclereader in place of something that's in here, or like side decking it for when you play?
I wouldn't main deck it just because, like, if you look at the recent extravaganza, like top cut, or just in general the spread of what decks were being played. Sure, Cyclereader is live against Eldritch because Lord is a light and whatever, but this card is going to be dead against Virtual World. It's going to be largely dead in the mirror. It's going to be dead against most trap decks. It's going to be dead against like rogue combos, stuff like Dragon Link, don't really care. If anyone's on Infernoble, they don't care. Phantom Knights, or Crank Kids, it's just not live enough of the time to warrant main deck.
Gotcha. It's definitely an anti-Drytron card, but aside from that, I don't know.
Yeah. I main Draw as a Drytron out just because Draw is actually good against other stuff as well. So I think I'm sorted for that. Do you want me to move over to the side, or for discussing like what I play in the side, or would you rather move to the next list?
You can go over side deck real quick if you want.
So
I
played
side deck
7
depending
back
on
routes.
other stuff that I.
Yeah, so side deck is extremely meta dependent, and also, I guess if you're playing at locals or stuff like that, your side deck and even main deck sometimes might be influenced by what decks CMOs play. Like, I've had this discussion with people. I hear people that say like, "Oh, my locals was all back row players, so I play 9 back routes," or "My locals was all Drytron, so I play whatever." But I play 7 back routes because we're not very good at dealing with back row. Winder doesn't hurt back row. Punishment can only target face-ups. Knight negates face-up monsters, so that doesn't have much impact. Most of the time, your Macabre is going to be for a monster negate. Your hand traps don't massively hurt back row either, so in matchups like Geist or Eldritch, you do really want to have those blowout cards. That's why I play those. Lancia is for Virtual World. Nib is for combo, and Bell is for a lot of stuff. Bell is really underrated in this format. Like, it's really strong.
Yeah.
I just don't main deck it because
Yeah.
I think the other hand traps I play are higher impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because it's what? It's negate activation of add card from the grave to the hand, deck or extra deck. So if you take stuff out of the grave, it's basically if you take stuff out of the grave,
That's not happening.
then
Yeah.
Bell can negate it.
Also, Bell negates a lot of cards that some people forget it negates. So in Virtual, some people forget this, but you can negate GG because in the end phase, GG adds to hand. I mean, I'm sure people know this, but sometimes if Virtual open bad, which does happen, and they'll need to like, I don't know, special GG to send Xinglong and they get their combo going, and you can negate that GG first effect activation. Sometimes that's so good. You can also negate Servant, because Servant adds from Grave. You can also negate Gamma, which is really good. There's a lot of instances where it's definitely a strong card.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. Definitely underrated trap for this particular meta.
So,
is there anything else you wanted to mention about this particular?
I think this
list
do you
want to go?
It's pretty standard. I guess the only thing that I really enjoy running is the 1-win Pegasus in the extra deck. There'll be instances where with Servant, Punishment, or Maximus, you won't really have like direct cards that you want to send to get advantage in that instant. Like you might be going first, so sending Entis is useless. Or maybe you already got your window play set up, so there's nothing else that you want to send that's like toolboxy. But Pegasus is really good, especially with Punishment being used in the meta by a lot of backrow decks. That like unicorn effect to just spin a card is really, really good, especially against like, against every deck really. Like we've seen IP into Unicorn has been a thing in the meta ever since those cards were released, and there's a reason for that, because removing cards from play in such a way is just good, and having it as a toolbox thing in your grave is good.
Yep.
So,
gotcha. So what one do you want to talk about next? I think you also sent me a list for Zodiac, Dogmatika, and Invoke.
Zoo. I guess Zoo is a pretty simple one, so we can go for that one.
Alright.
Zoo isn't like super complicated as a deck, so it has some cool plays, but depending on.
Yep.
I personally enjoy the Shadow variant more because it has more lines of play, but Zoo is definitely super strong as well.
Yep. Can you see it up there?
No, I still see the Invoked.
No.
Oh no! Now I see the Zoo variant.
All right.
So.
Must be a little laggy.
Yeah. Zoo. This deck is just make Zeus, make another one, wipe the board, do it again.
Yep.
That's why. I mean, I think it's just common knowledge at this point. Zoo is good because you can stack Xyz, make Zeus, and wipe the board. But jokes aside, you can do some cool stuff. Like you can make Megaclops going first. There's like a cute combo you can do for that. Google it if you don't know it. For the Zoo ratio, I play. I guess is also pretty standard. There might be some discussion over whether you should play Rat, whether you should play 3 Thara or 2, 3 Whip or 2. I play these because this is what works for me. The only one I think you could drop potentially is Rat, just because. I mean, if you summon Rat and try and go for the whole combo that gets you the 1-card Megaclops, chances are you're going to get ashed. It's very unlikely that your opponent is just going to give you a free Megaclops. And when you overlay Rat, it doesn't have any good effect that protects the Zodiac that you summon. Whereas Ram does, Whiptail does, Thara doesn't really, but it can come up and it's a draw, so that's good. So that's why Rat is kind of, I guess, not great. I think decks more like Zodiac Outlets just don't play it because they just want to go Ram, stack Dryden, set 3 cast. But we kind of want to make that combo more, so that's why I play Rat. Then you play the 4 other Zodiacs, the 3 Tenki, 1 Barrage. And then the hand traps are very similar, as you can see.
Yeah. I
And,
see.
yeah,
Not
this deck is also
not to
fairly
skip way ahead,
to be honest.
but in the side deck to continue some of our discussion, you have Dimension Shifter.
Oh, yeah, so Shifter is pretty cool in this deck because you're an Xyz deck, so you can actually like go a whole turn without making use of the graveyard at all. Like you can just go stack for a Dryden or like just direct Borbo, make a Zeus, and not care about the grave at all. So you can just like Shifter, shotgun Shifter, and that's just like your opponent most times will just go, okay, end turn. And you just go, yep, I'm going to go for Zeus, set my back row, whatever, and you can't do anything, which is crazy, because you can do so much without your graveyard at all. I think Shifter's even main deckable in like pure Zoo variants. I don't main deck it here, because going first it does conflict, like it conflicts with your Nadir and other stuff, but man, if you've ever played Shifter against a combo deck...
Oh, I'm sure it feels good.
It does.
So I guess my last question for this is what, you know, I highly doubt that you're the only person playing Zodiac Dogmatica, but what about the two engines plays well together that you like? Is it just that the Dogmatica engine doesn't take up much space, so you can play Zoo, basically do all the cute little Zoo Xyz stuff, and then also have your Dogmatica plays?
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so I guess that you're right. That was pretty simple.
Yeah,
if you don't know stuff about Zodiac, you're gonna have to look it up because you should know stuff about Zodiac.
Just read the cards.
Yeah. What was the other one called? It was a...
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a good deck, but I think I find it not too interesting.
Right.
This
let
is
me know
probably
when
the
you
more
can see that.
interesting of the builds. Yeah, I can see it.
This is the more Shadal heavy variant. The other one had the little tiny Shadal engine in it, but this one runs a lot more.
Yeah, so I think this is probably the most fun variant. If you're looking for something that's more challenging or that has more lines of play, this is definitely the variant you should go for. You still do play the like expensive Dogma package. You could like just play pure Shadows or stuff like that to play a more budget. But I think it definitely does add a lot of power and consistency to the deck. So that's, I think, why this works. A lot of people question this, but I think it's been proven now. It's had like a couple extravaganza tops, like loads of like random local tops here and there. I'm sure you've seen like some profile somewhere on YouTube or whatever. It's just been proven, I think, that these engines are getting so splashable that once upon a time it was like a stretch to play like Orca Striker, but now you can just play like Shadol Invoked Dogmatica. Like who would have even thought 2 years ago that we'd be splashing 3 engines into the same deck and it being good?
Yeah. Oh, and so I noticed, you know, that your Dogmatica engine was pretty much the same in your Invoke Dogmatica and in your Zodiac Dogmatica. But here it's a little bit different. You don't play a Maximus, and you only play 2 Ecclesia. Your Nadir Servant's down here still. But so do you want to explain a little bit of like why that's a little bit different, and maybe some of the strategies in this that are a little bit different?
Well, basically, I don't play Maximus in this because why don't I play Maximus? So you could play Maximus. I think the reason I opted not to is because I'd need to banish something in grave, and I'd rather keep my Shadol Fusions or whatever it is in grave as like Schism banish fodder. I think that's my reason. That was my reasoning, or it might have been because when I was playing this build, like extra decked Maximus outs were more common. You can definitely play Maximus here, I think.
Okay.
I think the main change is you play Ashion. So the reason you play Ashion is, for those who don't know, Shadol Fusion is the best fusion spell in the game, because going second if your opponent has something special from the X deck, you just send from deck. You just Foolish Burial and just make whatever you want, which is crazy. But that's Shadow Fusion. And what that means is that most of the time you're going to be sending a light to make Construct and get your play started. And most of the time that light is going to be Ecclesia. And what Ashion does is when he's special, you can add a Dogma from grave to hand. So basically, you can kind of like loop the resource. You send it. It's like an indirect search, I guess, which is what Shadow does. You send it from deck with Fusion, and then you search it. You add it back with Ashion, which is I think is a really cool play.
Yeah, that is a really cool play. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And definitely makes more sense to me than having Maximus in there.
Yeah. You play a smaller engine just because, as you can see, there's more engines. So I made them all smaller.
Yeah. I mean, so the Shadal engine, I think, is pretty typical here, right? The 3 Wendy, 2 Skullmeister, Hedgehog, Dragon. I do find it interesting that you play one of each of the Hedgehog, the Dragon, and the Beast. Obviously, the Aerial makes sense in the Skullmeister and
so
Wendy, I get, but these 3 are interesting.
Basically, what this deck is, if you're like a hardcore Shadow fanboy, this is not the deck for you, because this deck doesn't really play Shadows as much as just abuse how good their effects are. We don't really go for this. Like, you might have seen these like pure Fusion Shadow builds. A lot of them are pretty popular right now because of Riliona from Genesis Impact is really good for the deck. Basically, what we do here is that most of the time you're going to either Fusion into Macabre or like Fusion into one of your Shadows going first, and then you're just going to send to grave, get the effects off, and generate advantage. That's pretty much it. And what the Shadow cards I play, the reason why I play those ratios is because Wendy and Squaw are the ones that get my engine going. Like, Wendy gives me field presence and Squaw just sends any name. And then the other 4 I kind of don't want to see. It's not terrible if I see them, but I'd much rather send them with Construct or Squamata or whatever it is to then get the advantage from them. But I don't necessarily want to draw them.
Yep, I agree with that. That makes sense.
And then I think the only different thing with this deck is I main deck Nibiru. I'll be honest, one of the issues that Shadow has always had, I mean, this has just always been the case, is that you don't have light targets for Construct. So one thing that kind of sucks about Shadows is that there is no good light Shadow. Like, they released Kaios in the structure deck, but Kaios just sucks. Like, it's just so bad that you don't want to play it.
Yeah, I think I haven't published the video yet, so you probably didn't see it. But Yu-Gi-Oh! JPEG and I kind of talked about that when we were talking about pure Shadows, because he's a Shadow fanboy basically, and we were speculating on what a really good Shadow card would be to introduce that would be like generic and light. I'm trying to remember which card we said. I think we said use Hedgehog's effect, but flip it. So the flip effect is
sort of something the deck needs.
In the graveyard would be add the Spell Trap. So you could dump Hedgehog and get a Shadow Fusion, or dump, this version of Hedgehog, get the Shadow Fusion, and
that would be broken.
at the same time make it like a light target.
No, that would be insane. That would be crazy.
But what if Kaios would have been designed something like that, Shadow would have seen a lot more play, and Kaios would actually see play. As it is, they released a light target that doesn't.
Like, if that's what Kaios did, this deck would be insane. For people who don't know, right? For any fusion deck, if you've ever played any fusion deck, you'll know that if you don't see your fusion spells, or you don't have some way of getting access to them, you just lose. Because your main deck doesn't really do anything. Your main deck is just names to gain access to your extra deck. Like, if you just don't see fusion spells, it really sucks. So what you're suggesting here is to have just a name that you can pitch and go, yep, fusion spell, which is crazy, but I'd love it.
Yeah,
That
I
would,
mean,
that would be crazy.
I'm not saying that it would last at 3 forever. It would probably end up getting limited or something, but
Ben 10.
yeah. And I was talking to you about that Drytron core, that extra one I have. Yeah, it's probably a good idea to hold off, see what the hits are on the next list, and then pick up what you need.
If you don't think Ben 10 is getting limited, I've got something coming for you. I mean, I don't, but Konami should. And if they don't, a lot of people are going to be very angry. So
Yeah, especially the new Drytron,
the Xyz.
the new one. Yeah.
Jesus.
That's coming out in Lightning Overdrive. I mean, because I think Lightning Overdrive is scheduled to come out in May, and the next ban list scheduled to come out in like March. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hit Ben 10, Drytrons drop off the face of the earth a little bit, and then, this card gets released in the TCG in May, and then they come back.
I think Drytrons live. Like, the 0 Ben 10 Drytron is still insane.
Do you think that
I mean,
not to diverge from Dogmatika,
I'll just say
but
quickly,
do you think that
the main Drytron list at the moment, there's Megalith, like combo Drytrons, and then there's like control kind of fairy Drytron, which is just like Ben 10 loop, basically. Megalith sees less play just because the end board isn't as crazy. You don't end on like a 6 negate, Omni negate, plus Vanity, plus you can't play the game. It's much more moderated and much more like what you'd expect from a combo deck.
But some of these Amor Factor and Bethor and Full are really good cards.
Yeah, they're just not seeing play at the moment because Ben 10.
Yeah, but I mean this particular build plays Ben 10 as well. I don't know what happens. Do you think that Ben 10 will get banned or limited?
I mean, so Konami have kind of a history of these random cards that are like unseen old format cards that suddenly see play, and they're just like, nope. And this happened with Hulk Fibrax, Blow Up Bulb, it's gone. Steam the Cloak, gone. Jet Synchron, okay, I guess Jet did see play, but gone. O-Lion, who saw O-Lion played ever? Not really. And then Aurodon, O-Lion, gone. It's just a thing that happens with these like old format cards that were pretty meaningless for a long time. And all of a sudden, they're just like the best card in the game. And Konami are just like, nope, that's gonna get banned. So I think Ben 10 could get banned. I think they'll most likely limit it just because I think 1 Ben 10's alright. Yeah. If you only have 4 in your deck and you don't open any, you're either forced to search it off Alpha, which is pretty bad, or I think they'll probably limit it.
Gotcha.
So I think the only other thing to say really about the Shadow variant of this deck is why I think it's a good option over the other ones. So I've said why. I mean, Zoo is straightforward. You just make Zeus and do stuff. Invoked is also very straightforward. You can make Winder, and you have a lot of just generic good cards. And it's very consistent as well. But it just does its thing in a very simple, straightforward way. But I think this variant has something more interesting to it, which is Super Poly. I don't main deck it just because I don't really have space, and I probably would if I wanted to. I could probably drop some things, but Super Poly in this format is crazy. I think people forget. A lot of people are dropping Vanity's Ruler from Drytron, which makes sense. Vanity isn't. I guess it's a good card, but having like 6 negates and an Omni, most of the time that's just game. If your opponent doesn't like open droplets or something like that, it's just game. So because of that, Super Poly is now a viable option. Now, Ultimateness doesn't negate normal summons, so you can just normal summon any Shadow, Super Poly, get rid of Ultimateness, make Construct, send Aerial, banish all of their names, and then just smile at them as you walk over their non-existent board. That one line play, it's so simple, but when you do that against Drytron, you just win, which is crazy. And even against Virtual World, VFD is dark. So you normal summon a Shadow, you super poly their VFD, you make Winder, and now they can't play. Which is also crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy to me because like Super Poly is one of those cards. It's insanely strong, but in certain metas is totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
So I think is it because it wasn't really relevant in like the Dragon Link meta from what I remember.
Bustle Up was a thing.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of fell away, and I think people almost forgot about it. Like they didn't forget about it, but like people don't go back to it as like this is an out for this. And if you're not playing a fusion deck, obviously, then that doesn't make any sense. But in a deck like this, yeah, Super Poly can really just walk over some of these meta relevant boards.
Yeah, Super Poly this format is definitely one of those I think sleeper cards at the moment. But I think Shadow decks are picking up quite a bit. I've seen a couple. Like Cali Effect did one profile. A lot of people I think it's just a very enjoyable deck. People like Shadows because it's one of those control decks, very much like Geist in a sense, that has lines of play. One of the reasons I guess people kind of when there's like a good new deck, people want it to be combo. They just enjoy it when the best deck is combo, because admittedly combo does have like all of those options, and it is really, really satisfying. Like playing Dragon Link, and your opponent goes nib, and you go okay, and you continue a combo. Your opponent goes like draw, and you go okay, fine, I'll just LP and just ignore you. Your opponent ashes, whatever, and you just keep playing through all those interruptions because like the route to make. It just feels really satisfying, and I guess I get that.
Yeah.
But Shadows is in like that kind of midway like category, where it is a control deck because you don't end on like 6 negates. But when you're doing your lines of play, if you have like a decent hand, there are a lot of routes that you can take, and they all obviously there's always going to be like the perfect play to make, but there's so many lines you can choose, and you have access to so much with all of these generic good effects. I mean, the Shadow cards are pretty simple if you look at them. Like Beast is draw, Squire is a foolish, Hedgehog is a search, Wendy's a special. Like you just have access to good generic stuff, and I think you can do a lot more with this, which I guess is why I enjoy this build more. If you test these builds, you'll get what I mean. You have more options.
Yep. Now, the Magistus cards add in, I think we were talking about Riona, or however you pronounce her name earlier.
I don't know. Really, is it Riona?
I don't know if it's Riona or Riona or I don't know.
Whatever.
Regardless,
the Magistus.
Yeah. And I see they have Artemis in the extra deck. Have you considered splashing in?
Right. Yeah. So basically, I think this trend is picking up. Once upon a time, the standard extra deck package for Invoked was Secure Gardener, Almirage, and then like whatever else you wanted to, Macabre, Purga, Trio, whatever. Basically, Artemis is the link. You can do all of that without having to go to to Almirage. So you give yourself one more slot in the extra deck. So in the Invoke Dogma variant, I don't play Artemis. Why? Because I want to have Almirage. Why? Because I want to have access to Purga Trio. That's because I think Purga Trio is very good in that build. In this build, I don't think Purga Trio is as good, just because I have access to, like, I guess, beat sticks in a sense. You can make Agoides in this deck huge, because Agoides, you can banish a fusion in your grave to boost its attack. and you're a fusion deck, so chances are when you pull out this card, it's going to be like a 4,800 plus Alistair one. Yeah, it's like a 6,000 beat stick that just runs over anything, which is insane. And then you have Construct, which destroys special summon monsters. I think you just have so many outs to big boards already that you don't need Purgatrio. So that's why I don't play Almirage. And by playing Artemis instead, I have that one more slot in the extra deck, which I think is really crucial to give yourself like just more options. That's basically why I play Artemis.
But you don't have room. You don't have room for Rilliona, or however the heck you pronounce her name.
I think it would be a bit too much then, because then you'd have like a small Dogma package, Shadow, and also you'd have normal summons which conflict, because your normal here is generally Alistair. I kind of dislike having more, like, I guess, because Alistair in this deck takes up 7 cards, because you play 3 Meltdown, 2 Invo, 2 Alistair. If you then play 3 Rilliona, whatever, and then the Magistus Invocation, that's now another 4 cards, maybe like 3 depending on your ratios. But now that's 10 cards in your main that are essentially not normal summons, but cards that really lead to the same thing. I think that's a bit much. I think it's fine playing the just the Alistair. I think if you want to go for Rilliona, you should probably just drop the Dogmas altogether and just play Shadows, which is it's perfectly fine as well. That's a good deck.
Yeah. Gotcha. That makes sense. Just taking a peek at the time here, we're running at about 45 minutes for the video.
That's pretty long.
Yeah, they've all been about an hour so far.
Might have to do some trimming.
Yeah, we'll see. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about Dogmatic in particular, the meta in particular? I'm sure that you will. I'm sure that you'll come back for other videos where we can talk more in depth about things like the best hand traps and the best trap cards and things for the meta. But for this video, is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap things up for the week?
Well, okay, so I'd say a couple things which are completely unrelated to card choice. It's more like market based. So I'd say of the Dogma engine, I guess indirectly part of the Dogma engine, cards you should buy sooner rather than later are Schism. If you are playing remote duel events at all, you should definitely buy Schism sooner rather than later. I mean, we've seen this card go from, what was it, like $5, $10? I don't know where it's at now for you guys, but here it's like 20 each, which is crazy. And if we've learned anything from Rise of the Duelist cards, is that the value doesn't sink, like, ever. I mean, same thing with Ice Dragons.
I think when I bought Schism in like December or the end of November or something like that, it was like almost $10.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's gone up substantially since then.
Definitely don't. I think there's cards where it's worth just going, okay, I might wait a month to see where it's at, but Schism, just pull the trigger. As for the main deck, Dogmas, I'd actually suggest not buying Nadir Servant yet, unless you need Servant for like a deck that you're playing to events. If you're playing events, I think you can wait, just because this card is really, really, really strong for a search card, and I think it definitely will either get limited or at least see. Like when you're talking about card prices, a card doesn't necessarily have to get hit on the ban list to see like effects on its price from the ban list. Like, all you need is just one YouTuber to make a video where they go, I think this card will get limited, and boom, like all the people who have that card go, well, time to sell. And if that's when you should buy it. I mean, Nadir is really expensive now as well. I don't know, it's like what, $90?
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's over 80.
Yeah, so I think it's worth waiting. As for the rest, I think Ecclesia's You could probably get those now. Maximus isn't very expensive. Yeah, I think that the issue with this kind of deck is that it's just very expensive. So I think going into building this, you should kind of just make that commitment at the beginning and go, well, look, this is going to cost me a lot, and kind of just accept that and move on. Because there's very little point just picking up 3 pieces and going, not worth my time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my.
Yeah, you either need to spend the money or not buy it.
That's my
Those are your two options. There's no partial buying, I suppose.
Yeah. I guess there's some workarounds you can make with like the side deck and whatever. But
yeah. Gotcha.
So yeah, invoked.
Well, I think that about sums it up. Yeah, I mean, this was a very helpful video for me. I'm sure it was a helpful video for the rest of you watching as far as Dogmatika. Thanks for your time, Ghost. I appreciate you telling us everything you need to know.
And, thanks for having me again. I hope everyone watching enjoys the video. Quickly, I'd just like to shout out all the people that I guess support me and you on your channel and on Instagram. Definitely check out the Instagram page. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Explorer. That's where all this content is born. That's where all the discussions happen. So that's the place to be, honestly. If you want to see all of this stuff, like if you want to talk to us in person, that's where it's at. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Feel free. I'll have those links down below. I'll have Ghost's Instagram down below too. Check those out. Like Ghost said, if you want to talk to either of us, shoot us a message on Instagram. I try to reply as soon as I can. Ghost usually replies to me right away, but it depends on his schedule. I know he's been pretty busy. So yeah, check those out. Also, if you are interested in any of these cards, my TCG Player affiliate link will be down below, as well as any merch or gaming accessories. Those links will also be down below, so check those out. Thanks again for watching. Thank you again, Ghost, for joining us. I hope that you're able to join us again sometime. And for now, we'll sign off. Thanks again.
Peace.
Hey, we're back here at the desk from our discussion with Ghost. What a good guy and what a good Yu-Gi-Oh player. My cat even agrees and says hello to everybody watching. So if you liked that content, smash that like button and subscribe to the page for more content like that that's coming up. Keep an eye on us. We're continuing to grow. We're continuing to have more guests. I think there's good stuff to come. So keep track of us. Check out the links down below in the description as well. I appreciate all of your support, and I appreciate you guys checking out the video. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you around next time.